This is a great example of a haircut that you might just call a regular haircut. Now, the reason this is such an important cut is because there are so few barbers that can actually do it. Typically, when someone calls themselves a barber, unfortunately, when they come in, the first question they ask people is, what do you want? And then they say, I don't know, regular haircut. And then the person will ask, well, what number do you want on the side? That's because most people use guards when they cut hair. At the Barbers of Greengate and at barbershops like Martin Barber Company, you will not use that terminology because our barbers do not use guards. So when someone comes in and asks for a regular haircut, what you're about to see is a regular haircut given using the Barber method. Okay? So the Barber method, as you will see, will start in the back. It's called the nape. The neckline starts in the neckline. Then it works to the right side of the head. Okay? Then it'll connect the right side to the back. If you were to look at that ear, and that was a clock, that was the center of the clock, the number 10 position, okay? That little area of the hair will need to be connected between the side and the back. Then you'll do the left side and then connect the side to the back on the left side. Then you'll do the top and you'll work your way over to the back of the crown. So that's the order of the Barber method. Using no guards can seem really scary, but if you learn it and you master it, your haircuts will go faster, they will be less intrusive to the client. So let's get started. Here we go. So this is the first move, and this is a move the client will be used to you doing. They will expect you to start here every time. Notice that I'm starting on the back of the neck, on the very bottom, and I'm just working my way up nice and slow, easing my clippers away from the head, and not going so high that I cut into his crown. So I'm coming in real easy. So once I get that little part on the bottom scooped out, I'm using a scooping motion. Now I'm gonna connect that, or where I just scooped up, I'm gonna get rid of some of that bulk a little bit higher up on the back of his neck. Pretty much going from the very bottom of the nape, between there and the crown. I'm connecting, kind of bringing that up just a little bit higher. What you won't be able to see, what I'm about to do, see I'm scooping that out, you'll see that scooping motion. You see how that scooping motion, you can see the back of his head, how it makes that nice round taper from the bottom, the back of his head. What I'm doing now is I'm kind of getting that line cut into the side of his neck. You see that there. This is all just with the clippers. I'm not pulling the T-trimmers out just yet. This little move is a kind of a cool veteran move here. That's how you get so the hair cut around the ear without cutting any of the other hairs. So you just kind of work it up and around just like that. Gets all those hairs out of there. And sometimes I can pull his ear down and grab some of the hairs from behind his ear. But what's important when I'm cutting this side is I cut the sideburn, okay? Come on up the sideburn. And then I'm gonna grab my comb and then I'm gonna pull and just connect from the sideburn. Wait for those hairs to fall out of my comb and just pull that and then cut it. This is gonna look really fast because this is obviously my hands are doing something that they're sort of been muscle trained to do. So even though looks like I'm going really fast, when you're learning how to do this, just take it slow. Don't try to go too fast. And believe it or not, even if you do this slow, you'll still have so much more accomplished in 5 or 6 cuts than you will changing guards out, working the hair over 50 times, because guards, as we know, are just terrible about cutting every hair. But if you're doing clipper over comb, it cuts every hair. It's great. So now we got the side cut. That 10 o'clock position or whatever has been cut. I'm taking some more bulk out that I can see, but see that 10 o'clock position needs to be sort of cut down. So I'm connecting that side to that part of the hair. And now we're ready to work on the other side of the head. So like I said, back to right side, then connect the side to the back. Now we're on the left side, starting with the sideburn, which you can't see, sorry. But as you can see, I'm kind of pulling that up, and then I'll grab my comb and I'll start continuing that up. And you can actually see it almost a little bit better here because you can see how I pull the hair up and some of the hair drops out of the bottom which I've cut, and then I know how much to take off the next little piece as I'm pulling it away. The hard thing to learn when you're coming up the side of the head is how to naturally gravitate away from the hair so it tapers longer and longer as you go up. Otherwise, as you're cutting, you'll just keep going up and up and up, and before you know it, you've got real short hairs on the top of the head, and you're thinking, how do I get out of this? You don't. Stop cutting. So, taking some of that bulk out, you can see as I come up, I'm allowing those hairs to fall through, and as they fall through, that's how you learn it. You watch the hairs fall through, and then you know I'm looking at what's left in the comb, if that makes sense. I'm gonna cut that off. Take it slow. There's no reason to think that you can go this fast. I've been barbering this is going on 8 years, so I've been doing this for a while. But the moves are the same. You're just gonna have to take them slow. But what you're picking up here are genuine moves that work. Okay, so now that we've done the back, the right side, the left side, we're ready to do the top. Okay, so what I'm gonna do here is you can't see it, you'll see a little bit of it here in a second, but what I'm doing is I'm picking up the hair like a mohawk, okay, right down the middle of the head. And I'm getting a guideline cut. In other words, however long I want the top to be, that's what I'm cutting the very center hairs. I'm gonna pick them up, I'm gonna work my way back, and as you'll see here in a second, you'll see how I'm picking those up, okay? And I'm gonna continue cutting it. Now, one thing you got to keep in mind when you're cutting a regular haircut is the front hairs. I've seen a lot of people do this. They think they gotta leave the front really long and then get shorter as they go back. It's actually the opposite. You're gonna wanna cut those front hairs a little bit shorter than you will, especially along the crown. You want that crown to be longer. Now, if you'll notice, he combs his hair to the left. So I'm pointing my shears to the left, which means I have to start in the back, work my way forward, picking up the hair, using that little guideline. Looks like a little valley when I pick it up because I've cut that guideline. As I pick that hair up, notice that I'm cutting in the direction, my shears are pointing the direction that his hair grows. Or I'm sorry, that his hair is combed. You want to cut in the direction of the hair pattern, whether that pattern is the direction they want to comb it, which hopefully they're combing their hair in their hair pattern. Okay, now that I've got the middle one done, I'm going pretty quick here. I'm gonna cut the sides. I'm starting to connect the top. If you notice, I'm doing 2 cuts. I was just doing 2 cuts here. And the reason is because his head curves, right? So I'm gonna cut along the curvature of the head. I'm cutting the top to eventually connect to the sides. So once I get that upper portion done, you'll notice that I'm gonna go ahead and move along to the sides. What I'm doing here is I'm actually connecting the sides to that portion I just cut by doing a little bit of lifting, sort of the same thing I was doing with my shears. I'm sorry, with my clippers, but now I'm doing it with my shears. And now you'll notice I'm picking that hair up and I'm seeing where the connection is. See that big bulk? There's a bulk between what I've cut on the top and what I'm cutting on the sides. And I'm connecting the two. Once they're connected, comb that down, looks pretty darn good, doesn't it? And if you'll notice, along the part line, that should be all connected too, from one side of the part to the other. So that way, it doesn't matter where he parts his hair, it's always gonna look good. There will never be any dangling hairs dangling down because it's all connected. Get yourself through the haircut, okay? Don't try to make it perfect as you're going along, because there will be time, if you do it right, to go through and double check your haircut when you're done. Always a good idea to do that. I've known guys who've been barbers for almost as long as me, and they still check their haircut. Okay, so here I'm doing the same thing on the left side. I'm connecting the top to the sides, snip, and then you notice the snip, snip. Those are 2 snips are when I'm coming around the curve here. Curving it on down. Leave that alone, that looked good. Same thing. So here I do the same thing on the left I did on the right. I'm doing a little bit of a pickup here just to make sure that those are connected, side to top. I can see it because the side will drop out, the side that I cut. I'm pulling the fringe forward. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll just make sure that that looks okay. Sometimes when you pick the fringe straight up and cut it, it doesn't always look as good when it comes forward. I like to do that just because when you're combing it, it makes sure everything connects. So hopefully this explanation helps people to see what's going on. Notice I'm really not taking a lot off the crown. You really have to be careful not to cut the crown too short, especially with hair like this. Very straight hair. And when it goes in a certain direction because of that whirl on the crown, you cut that too short and you got an alfalfa thing going on. You'll have to paste it down with all kinds of product. It looks silly. Also, important note, you may have noticed I didn't wet the hair down. Big mistake. Real barbers don't wet hair down before they cut it. The reason we don't wet it down is because we want to know what the haircut's going to look like dry. If you wet the hair down and cut it wet, when he goes home, he'll take a shower, he'll dry off his hair, he'll look at it 10 minutes later and go, holy crap, what did that guy just do to my hair? Because if you wet it, it will hide mistakes. Which, if you're selling a gimmick, I guess that works out pretty great. But if you're actually trying to do a good job, you want to cut it dry, okay? So, I've finished the haircut. What am I doing now? Well, what I'm doing now is I'm kind of connecting the crown, the part I just cut, with the back. These are refining cuts. So I'm done with the haircut. If he had to leave real quick, he could leave and he'd have a great cut. But we still have lots of time. So I'm gonna go through, I'm just gonna double check the taper looks good in the back, just do a couple more scoops here, make sure it looks perfect. Perfection can be a problem when it goes over time. But if you have time, don't kick him out of the chair, right? Within reasonable time, it's okay to go through, double check everything, make sure it's up to your standards, because your client will grow accustomed to your standards. And hopefully those standards are quite high. If you can do a timely haircut that is quality, that's when people will understand why you charge so much for your haircuts, because you can get 2 of 3 things in a barbershop. You can get it fast, you can get it quality, and you can get it cheap, but you can only have 2. I like to offer my clients quality and speed, but they don't get it cheap. Okay, so I think I might have the tea trimmers out here, just kind of doing those nice refining, crispy lines. Everybody likes those. Well, barbers like them. Maybe this guy's wife will like a nice crisp look back there. See how nice and clean that haircut is? Takes time, takes patience. Gonna get all that junk off his neck. It gives you time to not miss the little things. When you can do a quality haircut in a short amount of time, you can clean up. You're not gonna miss silly things like hair coming out of his ear, or you'll have time to make sure his eyebrows are trimmed down, which I think I do. So you can see just a nice clean cut. Looks good. Doing a little showing off for the camera, I'm not gonna lie. So now, what are we gonna do? Well, we're gonna vacuum them off. We have a vacuum in our shop. Maybe you don't have a vacuum in your shop. But they are very helpful. And by the way, tip of the trade here, don't use your blow dryer to blow them off, okay? The reason I don't recommend that is it just gets hair all over the shop. It gets hair all over the pictures and it gets it everywhere, okay? It's disgusting. Get a vacuum. Takes the hair out of the shop. Doesn't put the hair all over the shop. When you have a method, by the way, when you do things the same way every time, like the drape, like putting the paper towel on his neck before I do this neck shave, the way I do my neck shave, the way I bring the cream up and around the ear, and then wipe it down right before I take the razor to it, all these moves, if they're the same moves, he will come to expect them, and he will like it. If you don't do the moves the same way, well, how's he gonna form an addiction, right? If there's no consistency. That's all I'm saying. So, men typically love neck shaves, obviously. They feel great. But the whole haircut, the whole thing, if he can predict when things are happening, he can predict, okay, he's on the right side, okay, now he's on the left side, oh, he's on the top, that means he's almost done. Okay, he's just doing a couple more things and he'll be done. They love that. But if I'm on the left side, then I'm on the right side, then I'm on the left side, then I'm on the back, then I'm on the top, then I'm on the back, then I'm on the top, then I'm on the side. He's like, when is this thing gonna be over? You give him a pattern, you give him a method, and he will come to expect when you're gonna be done, and he can appreciate that. Most men can appreciate that. We are creatures of efficiency. That's why, another reason why a method is so important, so important. So once we finish this up, we'll wipe them down and put some aftershave on them. I like using the bay rum, kind of a manly scent. It's not typically a scent most guys just wear, so it's sort of like something his wife will come accustomed to. Oh, you've been to the barbershop, I smell your aftershave, they always use. Just things people come to expect. And you'll be surprised at what guys come back for, those little added qualities, whether it be timeliness or a vacuum to vacuum the hair off, or the way that you do neck shaves. Some guys use a little mechanical massagers. I use those for some services. But whatever it is, depending on what it is, they'll be back. So just make sure it's always the same every time. Be predictable. Be consistent. Hopefully this has been a helpful video. Hopefully this helps you to pick up some of the Barber method. I think this one might be the best one I've had to do thus far. Look at that, doesn't even need anything in his hair. Looks good just the way it is. Hope you enjoyed it. Enjoy the rest of it. Have a great day. God bless you.